All right. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. We have another great session on the certificates and certifications playlist. I'm very excited to have with me this morning Deadra Welcome, who is an e-learning consultant from the DC area. Thanks for being a guest this morning, Deadra.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we're shifting gears a little bit. We did our first two episodes on grad certificates. And the first one, we kind of had an overview with Christy Tucker, who's an e-learning consultant with Cinead Learning. And she's just done a variety of things and has a great deal of knowledge and a great blog that has a lot of topics that are about certificates and certifications. So that's why I brought her on. And then our second episode was actually with two faculty members from Boise State University, who the professor and chair, Anthony Marker, and an assistant professor, that was Lisa Giacomo, who talked about kind of their graduate certificate and also their MS that they offer in their organizational performance and workplace learning department. Wow, I was surprised I got that right. But now we're moving on to certifications. And so specifically, we're going to be, the next couple episodes are going to be talking about ATD, talking about training industry, and you have, Deadra, both of those certifications. And we're going to have Alex Salas on next week to talk specifically about that ATD certification. And so today, what I want to get is sort of your background, talk about your journey as an instructional designer, and then kind of also discuss like the value and the importance of the certifications that you do have, because you have multiple certifications. So before we start, let me just say good morning to a couple people that are in. I saw that Mark had popped in. So good morning, Mark. Rick is here. Adrienne is here. And S. Twum is here. Cheryl, good morning. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining us for an early edition of the broadcast. So Deadra, tell us a little bit about your background and your journey as an instructional designer. Like we were talking earlier about how, you were with the federal government for almost 30 years. So speak on that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I do want to just say that thanks for promoting me to an e-learning consultant, but I'm a training consultant and a learning strategist for Concerning Learning LLC. So, but I do consult with e-learning specialists, but I don't necessarily do the work. So that is something, it's one of those things where you stay in your lane, and I'm an instructional designer. I can design it. But if you want me to author it, I'm going to bring one of my other experts in to help do that.
And I want to say that's an important distinction. That is an important distinction to make. People need to understand that. So thanks for
absolutely. So as you mentioned, I was in the federal government for 27 years prior to leaving and becoming a full-time consultant in 2018. So I started my business in 2011. While I was in the government, knowing it was going to be my exit strategy for outside of the government. And in 2018, I took the big leap. So I am an accidental trainer. I did not go to college and say, hey, I want to be a learning and development professional. That was not something that was even on my radar. So it really kind of fell in my lap when there was the training coordinator who was retiring. And I needed a full-time job. No longer was I an intern in the government. So here we are. Deadra is now the new training coordinator and had to understand and learn what in the world is that. So I fell into learning and development and then fell in love with it as instructional designer, facilitator, consultant, performance consultant, you name it. I've probably touched it or have helped develop something in the L&D space. So it is definitely something I'm passionate about. And as you can see by the certifications, I'm always growing and learning in the space.
Was there a particular point where you found that you had a passion for it? I mean, you just fell into it, you're an intern, but do you recall that at all?
There were actually different parts, different components of that love, that romance with L&D. It started with the coordination, so being able to understand how do you manage it. Manage. I had like 12,000 people I was responsible for, and they were in 13 different career development programs. So just learning the aspects of the ins and outs of getting people in class, getting them what they need, and then making sure that they continue to grow. And then from that, I went into instructional design. It was more of a need. I was at FAA at the time and in the aviation security office when 9/11 happened. So
Mm.
they needed some additional instructional designers. And here I was, new kid on the block. And they said, when you come back, you get the brand new module on the professional screener, which I was kind of concerned, like, why are you giving the new person the new module? But it worked out perfectly because I was able to tap into all the expertise and the senior instructional designers on the team. And I must say, my module was the best, as they said. But it was because of them helping me, nurturing me, coaching me along the way. So it was just different phases of the relationship with L&D. And then later, probably a few years later, I fell in love with facilitating. And there again was a need. Didn't have a training budget and needed to give people in my mentoring program some training, some development. And so here I was designing it, but who am I going to give it to?
Mhm.
So at that point, I fell in love with facilitation. So it's just been a long-term relationship with learning and development, and it's still growing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so no background in as a teacher or anything at all, huh?
No.
Wow.
Not at all. I didn't have I actually went to school for consumer affairs management and business management. So
Mhm.
I wanted to be a consumer fraud investigator.
Wow.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there any overlap with L&D there?
Not much.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to mention real quick, folks. Anybody in the live show, I do have a poll that's available for you to click on if wanting to know just whether or not you have an L&D industry certification. I've got a vote so far for yes, so please feel free to click on that if you'd like. And now I want to just get into these questions because we have quite a few of them, and we've even had some that were submitted to us from sort of external to our normal program. But let's go ahead and I'm just going to go from the top of these questions and we're going to go down. And if anybody wants to vote any of these questions up because you'd like to see one answered a little sooner rather than later, feel free to give it a vote. But we're going to start with just talking about your certifications and which one potentially offers you the most credibility. So you've got you've got a certification from Myers-Briggs, the MBTI certified practitioner. You've got the CPTM from Training Industry. You've got a Kirkpatrick certification, the bronze level certification. You've got a performance consultant. What is it? Is that a certification as well, or a license from the training clinic? I've never heard of that one. So, feel free. What is that a certification?
So they so certification is this broad term that's used in different ways.
Mhm.
And that one is more once you go through a certain um, we went through the training and then we had like a case study.
Mhm.
And that case study provided us with the training, the performance consulting certification with the training clinic.
Ah,
Um, so it just depends on what you're looking for. It's not as intense, not nearly as intense as the CPLP or the CPTM.
right.
So it's just different layers, I'll
Okay.
call it, of certification.
No, great. I'd never heard of that one. And then also you have the CPLP, of course, from ATD, and then Master Trainer certification from Langevin Learning Services. So out of that group, is there which ones would you pick out that you feel like offers you the most credibility, as a training professional?
Um, So that's a tough question because it really depends on the audience or the client and what their needs are. I do believe that the CPLP gives me more credibility in terms of the rigor that was necessary in order to obtain the certification. It's very um, there are very few CPLPs in the world. So I think that it sets us apart from some, average learning and development professionals. So it just depends on what we are, here again, there are layers. So I did I think the first certification was Langevin, and I'm like one course away from a training diploma with them, because that's where I got my foundation. I
Mhm.
really learned about instructional design from that first course and just built upon that with, task analysis and fundamentals of adult learning and all those different layers that went with that. Um, but then the CPLP gave me an opportunity to actually demonstrate that I can do the work. So the time that I went through it, it's a different format now. So now there is no work product. And it's actually going through, I believe, another transformation. But when I went through in 2010, we had a knowledge exam, which was 150 questions. And then we had a work product that we had to submit that was reviewed by our peers and given a score. So once you got through both of those, then you actually were certified. So if I look at it, the one that's giving me the most credibility would probably be CPLP.
No, that's great. And I just want to mention, I'm going to read from chat here a little bit. Rick had said he was saying, "Yay for Langevin, very thorough courses," and Adrienne is agrees. She's like, "I enjoyed my Langevin course as well, very thorough," and that kind of is reflects sort of what you were saying even earlier about that. So that's great. It's a foundational sort of certification that it sounds like that it's a really good thing. And then Rick mentions, I agree that the CPLP was the most rigorous certification he ever took and the one that he's the most proud of. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's great information. Any of the other ones, I mean, any of the other ones come up ever at all? Like, even I'm kind of curious as the CPTM from trading industry, if that one has any relevance.
So CPTM was more of a personal professional goal of mine. It really drilled down. So CPLP is 10 areas of expertise, and managing the learning function is one of those. Whereas CPTM focuses entirely on managing the learning function. And so it gave me an opportunity to dig deep into that particular area of expertise. And at the time, I was a training program manager in the federal government, and it gave me some additional tools and resources and a network. I actually am still connected with those in my cohort.
Mm-hmm.
So CPTM was beneficial in terms of the content and really drilling into the content of managing the learning function.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, Kirkpatrick, is another one that it really reformulated my views on training evaluation. And so I actually have done some work, with ATD where I flipped training evaluation upside down because it teaches you how to really, we talk about starting with the end in mind, but it really shows you how to do that and how to build your evaluation from the beginning, from the analysis phase all the way through evaluation. So those two, they have different rewards. Like I said, there's layers to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and actually, Mark had added a question in the Q&A where he asked if you had leveraged the Myers-Briggs certification or the Kirkpatrick certs in your work, and so it sounds like the with the Kirkpatrick one that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Anything with the Myers-Briggs one?
I'm laughing because the Myers-Briggs one was so I've been hearing about Myers-Briggs and have taken it for years
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to just really understand it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I really haven't utilized in my consultant role,
Mm-hmm.
but I see it in problem solving courses when I'm teaching them or designing them. I see it when we're talking about emotional intelligence. I
Mhm,
see it in different aspects of what I'm teaching.
mhm,
So it gives me more credibility to be able to speak to it when we're talking about introversion and extroversion.
mhm,
So not so much, I can't even say that I've actually administered it since I got certified.
mhm.
And am not even, it is way more complicated than I think the world we live in now. It I'm not sure if we need that. We're like quick hit micro learning, and it is so deep that an organization has to really explain to me why they feel they need MBTI versus some other assessment.
Right. And I do think that I'm not sure, but I think that there have been conversations in sort of some of my peer circles where they're talking about, kind of that it may be like a kind of a learning myth, the Myers-Briggs series. And just to be completely transparent here, I know that when I was at the e-learning guild early on, I know we as a team we had somebody come in and do the Myers-Briggs for us at the guild for the entire team. So but I don't know, whether or not it's still relevant now. I know I used to have those little blocks and stuff that they gave me at the end. So
What's your type?
yeah, exactly.
I think it's still relevant, and it's definitely based on research.
Hmm.
So it's something that has been tested, and it is relevant. It helps with teams, but it has to be framed properly because people don't like to be labeled and put in boxes.
Hmm.
So you have to really explain how you're going to use it and how it can enhance your team's performance.
Hmm.
And I see the comment about coaches using it,
Yeah.
and I think it would definitely be a great tool for a coach. Um, I would recommend DISC or Strength Finders, which is a little bit more simple to apply and to use in the real world. But it does have its benefits, and I'm glad that I have the certification because, like I said, it's enhanced other areas of what I do, whether it's coaching, whether it's career development or team building. So it definitely has enhanced that.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'm going to actually ask you a question that isn't on our QA list because when I was getting ready for this, had thought about it this morning. But for yourself and with your mindset, are certifications something that are always wanting to? You keep some like? Is it going to be a regular part of your professional development? Just adding certifications and making sure you're up to date on yours, is that a mindset that you feel that the professionals in our industry should have?
I think professionals should have some level of some certification. And I say that because there's a lot of trainers out there, and people who don't have a formal background in training. And I think that sets you apart.
Hmm.
For me, I have just a growth mindset where I'm always looking to learn. So
Hmm.
it's not that I'm chasing the certification, I'm chasing the learning that comes with the certification. And how can I leverage that for credibility and marketability? So it's not, I know some people that just chase letters, and that's not who I am. I am chasing the learning that comes with it. And how can I have a more comprehensive or a more rounded out profile? So I'm going through a coaching certification, but it's specifically steeped in diversity and inclusion.
Hmm.
So I'm specific, I'm really deliberate and intentional about what I am trying to do in my professional development, or what certification or learning I'm going through, what program, because it is deliberate. It's not just, oh, that's the new buzzword, that's the new certification, let me get that.
Hmm.
That's not, I don't see how that benefits anyone. So I ask people when they say, well, I want to get a CPLP, and I ask them, so what outcomes are you looking for with that? How are you going to use it? Because I would not recommend anybody go through that unless you really intend to use it and you have a plan.
I think overall that's just a really powerful mindset to have because, the whole idea now is that, as in your career, you should have like basically a continuous learning sort of, path of activity. I know that even where I am now at O'Reilly Media, that's a big thing, is just constantly being able to access content. It's one of the reasons why I think I do these webcasts on a regular basis, is because I want to promote content that is out there for people to just learn from constantly. And so I guess I kind of want to just even segue into this next question that relates really well to what we were just talking about. Which certification taught you the most?
By far, CPLP. CPLP. It's over 1,000 pages in their prep work. It is a lot of content. Although I was already in learning and development for 15 years and had gone through Langevin and some other programs prior to that, I learned a lot by going through CPLP, areas that I was not as familiar with.
Wow.
So I would say it is by far the most learning occurred with that.
Wow. So you think it has the best value out of all the certifications that you have?
I think value is relative. And it kind of goes back to, why are you obtaining it? So I can't really say. I could say what was valuable for me, but it might not be valuable for someone else. So I would recommend, other certifications or other programs, depending on what someone's career and learning goals are.
How about if their career goals are salary? And that's kind of the next question, is like, have any of the certificates helped you increase your salary at all? Because it's, we're all in it for, it's all just big business nowadays. So is there anything in particular with certifications that, that you look at because you think that there might be sort of monetary value associated with any of them?
So learning and development certification is fairly new in the certification space. And there are now more, it's increasing that employers are looking for people who have CPLP certified, or, they have different certifications. However, I think a lot of it has to do with your experience. So I can't put a monetary value on my certifications. I do believe that it has given me more, some leverage in terms of competing with others. I see the comment in the chat about master's degree. So it's interesting that I'm only touching on that because I was in a master's program and dropped it and got my CPLP. And so the reason why is because the principles and the topics and the principles that I was learning in that program, I knew. I mean, it's not that I knew it all, because I still learned, but I was already in the profession for 15 years prior to trying to get a master's in instruction. Well, it was in human resources development. And it wasn't what I needed. So what I needed to do was validate that I can do what I've been doing. And the CPLP was what I needed. But I don't discourage anyone from getting a master's or, some education in the field. It all goes back to your specific and individualized learning goals and outcomes.
Interesting. I think that kind of speaks to, like, in our first episode with Christy Tucker, she had talked a little bit about that, about I don't recall whether or not she had a master's degree, but she was talking about that she felt that basically one of the most important things that you can have more than anything was really just a powerful portfolio. And then after that portfolio, especially if you're somebody that's on a job search or whatever, having the certifications or a graduate certificate would be a powerful thing to have as well. The master's wasn't like the top priority, or even a PhD. Sometimes it could work against you, because if you're looking to get into, especially on the e-learning side, into some type of a role that is just developing stuff, those types of having an MS or a PhD, she said as a hiring manager, she wouldn't even look at it. So yeah. And let's see, Tanacha is saying, yes, HRT is different. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this. So have the certifications helped you at all when you were, looking for work as a consultant right now? Do people say, she has a CPLP or she has a CPTM? Is that something that that makes a difference?
Probably not.
Okay.
Most people don't know what they are.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's fairly new in the space. Like when you see PMP, people know, oh, okay. But when you see CPLP, well, what's that? So I get a lot of what's that? People research it and then they say, I just recently was hired by a training company to do some part-time instructor work.
Mhm.
And when I was there, to fill out the papers and onboard, she said, I see you have that, what is that, that CPLP thing? And she said, I looked it up and that's really cool.
Mhm.
That is what we need. We need people who have that. So it's not something that is driving people necessarily to bring me in, but because people want to know, can you do the work? Have you done the work?
Mhm.
They don't necessarily, it may be something that may set you apart to bring you in the door. But at the end of the day, like Christy said, you still have to show and demonstrate that you've done it or that you can do it. So it's not really something that people really know what it is. And
Mhm.
they really don't know what the CPTM is.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, even getting into this topic altogether for myself, originally we were going to just do this as a one-off session and just talk about certifications. But then as I had started studying this stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a huge conversation. I need to turn it into a series. And I would see, around, especially like on LinkedIn and stuff, people that were CPLPs and CPTMs. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, and so, yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying. When you were doing these certifications or like completing these, is there any particular one that was really kind of aligned to what you were interested in, like at sort of like your core interests more than anything else?
They all are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on where I am at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the CPTM, I had been a training program manager for years, but let me see what I can learn in order to enhance what I'm doing by going through the CPTM certification. So they've all, contributed to whatever I was doing. Like I said, I don't obtain or go after any credential or certification unless there's a meaning and a purpose. So they've all contributed to enhancing and becoming a better consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to speak to certain things based on my experience in going through the certification process.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing though for me is I'm able to help others and they can benefit from my experiences or from going through those processes, and I can kind of help direct them into something that will be more meaningful for them. So I help a lot of people, study for or prepare for CPLP
Mm-hmm.
because there's a way, most of it is on them. They think, wow, you've done amazing things to help me get there. No, you did the heavy lifting because it is a lot of content. I'm just here if you have questions, if there's some gaps. When I do that, it keeps me sharp because then I have to like, oh, you know what? I forgot about that. Let me go look that up so that I can prepare for the session. So it it's just I just think certifications are just so individual and there's just no, one size fits all.
Do you ever like as a consultant? Do you ever have to like find other individuals to work with, and do you gauge their experience based on any of their certifications?
That's a great question. I do. I do look for other CPLPs. I do look to see if people have some evaluation experience. But I also look for people who have other certifications that I don't have, so that, I don't necessarily have to get them all, because I know people in my network who are PMPs. That's one I'm never going for. But I have other people in my circle, in my learning tribe, who have that.
Mm,
So it just depends. Like I said, you go for what you need, and then you build your network to fill in the gaps.
excellent. Okay. And we've got quite a few questions from the audience here. I'm going to start jumping into some of these so I just make sure that we get through them. Okay, we're going to get this one from Emma, and this question is there a certification that someone new to the instructional design or e-learning field should get, which would make the person a better candidate for a new job, or should you focus on creating a great portfolio of work instead? Pretty common question. I think I've seen that come through a few times. But what do you think about that?
I would highly recommend, and I don't work for them, but Langevin. I would start there. When I was a supervisor and I had training specialists that worked for me and team leaders who were training specialists, I sent them there. They had been training specialists for years and had never taken any formal training in instructional design. And so all of them, I sent them there because I had gone through that program and was able to immediately leave and apply it and develop courses. Like I said, I developed screener training after 9/11 after going to Langevin. So I would highly recommend starting there. With the CPLP, you have to have experience before you even try to, obtain that credential. So that's not something that you just jump out and say, I'm going to be a CPLP. It would be too overwhelming.
Mhm.
So I would start with fundamentals. I always say learn the basics. So instructional design, with Langevin, you learn the basics about training analysis. You learn basics about evaluation. The whole ADDIE model, you learn it and you're able to apply it and have tools. I still have my binders that I use. Their tools, their format. I make them my own, but those are my go-to books. So I would highly recommend anybody new to learning and development needs to. I would start with Langevin.
Oh, that's great. And Rick says, I agree completely. That's the first thing my director at the time did with me when I joined the organization, was send me to Langevin. Oh, that's great.
Yep.
That's some really, really good information. Next question. This one's from Mark. We actually answered this one, which was, have you leveraged the Myers Briggs certification, Kirkpatrick certs in your work? We talked about that earlier. Let's see. Mark is asking just any thoughts on the CPTD versus the CPLP. And just so you guys know, we're going to have Alex Salas on next week, who's going to talk specifically about that. But Deidre, how about you? What thoughts do you have on that?
I don't have any. I can't even remember what the CPTD is. I know I've researched it, and so I can't speak to it. But yes, Alex is amazing, and he would be the one to ask that.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And let's see, and this one got upvoted. This one's from Tanacha. She says, I have found in my particular stream of work in consulting that project management skills are very necessary, paired with instructional design skills for leadership roles. Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the reasons why I got the CPTM was because a lot of the principles and the tools and resources that they provide help a training manager manage programs. So it's not necessarily project management from a PMP standpoint, but it is the tools that you need as a training program manager to manage your programs, whether you're a consultant, internal or external, um, but also help you manage your practice as a consultant. So I think that is great advice to, definitely you need to have instructional design, but you also need to know aspects about training program management and project management. Absolutely.
That's excellent. Thanks for answering that one. So let's get back to some of these other questions. Let me click done answering on that. Now, so what kind of resources did you use to help you with passing, say, the CPLP? was there anything specific that you did to make sure you get through that?
I'm laughing because they have greatly improved the resources that they have now versus when I went through. So when I when I obtained my credential, it was we had a virtual study group that failed me tremendously. Like it didn't provide any value at all.
Mhm.
So I had flashcards. We have a learning system that comes with it. I mentioned it's like 1,000 pages of content. So that is something that I would ride the metro, the DC, the transit system every day, and I would go through one area of expertise per week because I was on this fast track that I had to get through this in 10 weeks. So every week I would have that. I would be at my daughter's basketball practice and my son would be quizzing me with the flashcards. And then I created my own flashcards. And then they had like practice tests. So now they have so much more. They have Pinterest where they have content and infographics. They have there's an app. Like they have so much more now. And as a result of my experience, I started the Metro DC ATD's study group, CPLP study group, and scholarship because I didn't have that support when I was going through, and I wanted others to be supported as they went through. So that was something that they benefited that I didn't have, but I'm glad to be able to help them do that. So
No, that's good. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
study groups, that social learning, but also it's just a lot of not necessarily memorizing, but absorbing the content and understanding how to apply the content.
I can imagine that, like it's been, let's see, you got it issued back in 2010. So there's probably just been a ton that has changed between now and then, especially on the technology side. And so I'm, glad to hear. It sounds like that they've made improvements. Rick is saying that he was sorry to hear that he went through the pilot phase. He had a study group with Trish Ewell. That would be amazing because Trish is amazing. So,
She is amazing. Owl's Ledge is amazing.
yeah.
I have sent before I started the Metro DC's study group, I would send people to Trish. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. She is one of the most wonderful people I know in the L&D space.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. What do you wish you had known when you started the process of getting these certifications? Anything that you can mention about that? Anything that you would recommend to people before you start going after something?
Absolutely. Make sure, and I said it earlier, and I can't say it enough. Make sure you know why. Know your why. Why are you doing it, and how are you going to use it? Because even when it gets tough, and it will get tough when you're going through, you can always remember, okay, I'm doing this for this reason, and it keeps you grounded and it keeps you pushing forward. If you're just doing it just to get some letters, then it's easy to fall off when it gets tough. So I would definitely say, just remember your why.
That's great. And I'm curious, and this isn't one of the questions in our QA, but how did you find this what you wanted? Was there, like, it seems like that process just on its own could be really, really challenging.
It is. It is because there's a lot out there.
Hmm.
Um, I live on LinkedIn. So I find, but actually, back when I was in 2010, I don't think there was LinkedIn,
I don't
or
was
I don't think so. So I hear about, I would get trade publications and the TD magazine. Training Industry has an online version. So now you could just Google certifications or Google, I don't even know. I haven't even tried it, but Google a learning and development certification. Or when you see someone who has some expertise that you're interested in or that you would like to obtain, I have people who reach out to me on LinkedIn for inbox messages and they just want to just talk about, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And I'll give them 15 minutes and we'll have a let's chat and I'll share what my experience and then help them make decisions. So, um, connect with people that have what you're looking for, or are in the industry or the field that you're interested in, and ask them.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, and I think it probably is different nowadays that, because there are a lot of resources, a lot more resources out there to be able to shop for these things properly. Are there any, and maybe this is the wrong question to ask, but is there anything out there that you would just avoid?
I would, without naming companies,
Yeah.
I would be careful. There are a lot of people in companies and consultants who say that they um, are experts in training, specifically in coaching, and they're not. So I wrote a blog about imposters. I think I did it on like Halloween, and how to spot people who are imposters. And so if anybody who is saying that they are a learning and development, they have a certification, if they're not affiliated in some way with ATD, be wary. And it's not that I don't work for ATD, I don't work for Langevin, I don't work for them. I'm just, based on my experience, those people, if they don't know what ATD is, then I would not take any learning and development certification or anything from them. No training. And coaching, if they're not affiliated some way with ICF, I would be a bit weary.
Okay. No, that's good advice. That's good advice. All right. So we've got about 15 minutes left. Let's get through the last group of this questions. What do you think? What was the most difficult part of getting the certifications, you think?
For me, it is the knowledge exams.
Mm-hmm.
I am not the test taker and preparing for that. So CPLP, the knowledge exam, was the part that was the hardest for me. The work product was fairly simple for me because I had been doing the work, and obviously I had been doing it for the most part properly. So I was just enhancing what I was doing when I submitted my work product. Now I think they have 2 exams, unless they changed it already, but there's the skills application exam. So there's an exam, and then there's the knowledge exam. So it's those exams are tough for me. I can do the work, but the exams, even the CPTM, like when we got to the analytics, that's one of my weaker areas, and I had to like do some calculations. I was on the exam like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had to do math in this. What in the world? So there was this panic feeling. I mean, I got through it, but so those things are tough for me. So whatever your areas that you need improvement are in, or your weak spots, are the areas that you should focus on the most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. What are you curious about right now? Is there another certification that you're working on? I think you had mentioned something earlier, but sorry, I don't recall.
I am in the process of I completed the training. I'm in the process of the executive coaching and diversity. So that is what I am doing right now.
Is there any way, can you type in chat like what that is? That's an interesting one because or just the resource for it, or if there's a website, because there are people that are I've had other people that are actually interested in specifically that. So yeah, because that one is, I'm sure, pretty relevant now.
Absolutely. I'm pulling out my book now to help you. I know this is a little unorthodox, but that's who I am.
Yeah,
so I will type it in right now. Let's see.
Yeah, we have sort of a series that from Toddy Norum that she is hoping to build up that is a lot on that, on diversity and inclusion. So you guys go coachdiversity.com, check it out. And so this is one that you're looking to achieve soon, is the certification from them.
Yes, and it was a joy for me because it's affiliated with Howard University, which is my alma mater. And it's a part of their School of Business, which is where I graduated from. So it was like going home. but it is something that it was extremely valuable. It was an entire week. It was grueling. We were exhausted, but it was so worth it. It was a great experience. And now we have like we have to get in our coaching hours and we have to, go forward with that. But the training that we got was amazing.
That's great. And so how about this question? If you have one piece of advice for folks that are looking at getting a certification, what would it be?
Have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a plan. Know how you're going to use it. Know why you're attempting this,
Yeah.
and just really understand that, because I just hear so many people who, I want this certification. Well, why? What are you doing with it?
Yeah.
How are you going to use it?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're questioning whether or not that's the right one for them. So just imagine if you had invested that money in it and then it's not what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
So,
I like how you mentioned too, just if you're just going after the letters, that's just silly. Like, really do have some reasoning behind it. Apply some intelligence to why you're going after this stuff. Okay, great. Let's see. And then we have one last question from Mark, which is, what are some of the best reasons to earn the CPLP? So there you go. There's like, he's kind of asking the why. How would an ISD or developer leverage it if they wanted to specialize or grow as a PM? I think Mark I think he's actually in your area. I know that he works with a lot of like virtual events. So what do you think?
I think I know Mark.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the question was, ask me the question again.
Sure. Let's start with just this. What are some of the best reasons to earn the CPLP?
I think the best reason is to set yourself apart from others. So it's a differentiator. Like I said, I don't know what the number is. The last time I checked, there was only 1,500 in the world who actually had the credential. I think it's gone up since they changed the format, but it sets yourself apart. You learn more about, so I was mostly focused on instructional design, but I learned about some OD work. That's when I got exposed to more of the coaching aspect, the analytics. I didn't know that there were multiple instructional systems design models. Like it just rounded me out in terms of knowledge management. That was something I had never heard of until I went through the certification. So I think that, just a why is, if you want to be a differentiator, then CPLP is what you have. If you already have experience in the field, not if you're brand new to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, that's a really, really important point. And his second part of that question was, how would an ISD or developer leverage it if they want to specialize or grow as a PM? And so, I mean, would it be, I guess, something relevant for somebody who is a PM?
I personally, if I wanted to be a PM, I would not go through CPLP.
Mm-hmm.
I would not. I would, if I was in the training field, I would do the CPTM. I would go that route, because I'm not sure if you need the whole breadth of experience or knowledge that CPLP gives you if your focus is really to manage training programs.
Right. Any idea at all whether or not that CPTD, that new version, would have relevance in that way?
The APTD,
the ATD one, yeah.
So that one, I think it focuses on 2 or 3 areas of expertise versus 10.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're I think that would be a better path, because it will keep you focused on the areas that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Mark, we can ask Alex that next week as well. He had mentioned that he's actually writing exam questions for that CPTD, so he'll know quite a bit about that. Sure. And let's see. Adrienne is saying, this was so helpful. I wanted to complete the CPLP some time ago. I believe I'm more ready now and also excited to see how it has changed now to the CPTD. So thanks, Deidre. And I want to say thank you to you too. We're going to just wrap things up. Please, can you tell us how people can reach you? Maybe put your website in the chat. So if people want to reach out, if you're looking for some more LinkedIn buddies, maybe your LinkedIn URL. There you go, rescuemytraining.com. And your consulting business is called Concerning Learning, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Right, Concerning Learning LLC. And you're on LinkedIn. Actually, you know what? I actually have you up on LinkedIn right now. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to copy and paste your profile here so that
Okay,
folks
that would be great.
Can reach you that way.
Oh, thank you. I love to connect with people in meaningful connections. So if you want to chat, then definitely let's talk.
Excellent. Thanks, Rick, for that.
Thank you, Rick, Mark, and everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in this morning. We'll have the recording up later this week. You guys enjoy your week. Our next broadcast. I'm going to do the part 2 of our L&D resources on Friday. So you guys jump in on Friday. And other than that, we'll see you next week. Thanks again, DJ.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.